first thing Noah noticed was that their tent zipper was closed. That didn't sound wrong until he remembered they had left it open. Wide open. Because Riley had complained the tent smelled like wet socks, and Josh had joked that if a raccoon wanted their granola bars that badly it could have them. Now the tent sat in the dark clearing with the zipper pulled shut from the inside. Noah stopped at the edge of the trees. Behind him, Riley whispered, "Why is it closed?" Josh didn't answer. The three of them had left camp only 40 minutes earlier to follow the creek upstream. It was supposed to be a quick walk. They wanted to find the small waterfall marked on the park map before it got too dark. They never found it. Instead, they found a second trail. Not an official one. Just a narrow path pressed into the mud beside the creek, marked with strips of red cloth tied to low branches. At first they thought the hikers had made it. Then the red cloth started showing up too often. Every 20 feet. Then every 10. Then the trail curved away from the water and headed deeper into the trees. That was when Riley said they should turn around. Noah agreed. Josh made fun of them for being paranoid, but even he walked faster on the way back. The strange thing was the creek sounded different now. On the way out it was loud and close, rushing over rocks beside them. On the way back it kept fading in and out. Sometimes it was on their left. Sometimes it sounded like it was behind them. Sometimes it disappeared completely. Then they saw the glow of their fire through the trees. Relief hit Noah hard. Their campsite was still there. Their packs were still beside the log. Their cooler was still under the tarp. Their fire had burned low, but a few orange coals still moved under the ash. Everything looked normal. Except the tent. The zipper was closed. Riley said maybe the wind. Josh stared at her. There's no wind. Noah took one slow step into the clearing. The tent did not move. "Hello," he called. Nothing. He looked at the ground. There were footprints in the mud around the fire. Their footprints. But not only theirs. A fourth set circled the tent. Bare feet. Large. Deep in the wet dirt. The print started at the tree line behind the tent, came around the fire pit and stopped directly in front of the zipper. They did not lead away. Riley grabbed Noah's arm. "Someone is in there." Josh picked up a heavy stick from beside the fire. "Hey," he shouted. "Get out of our tent." The woods went silent. No creek. No insects. No birds. Just their breathing and the soft pop of dying coals. Then the tent wall pressed outward. Not much. Just enough for them to see the shape of a hand pushing against the fabric from inside. Riley screamed. Josh stepped back so fast he tripped over a log. Noah grabbed his backpack and said, "We're leaving." They didn't bother with the tent. They didn't grab the cooler. They didn't take the sleeping bags. They grabbed what they could carry and back toward the trail. Then the tent zipper moved. Slowly. One tooth at a time. Noah turned and ran. Riley and Josh followed. The trail back to the parking lot was supposed to be easy. It was marked with blue rectangles painted on trees, and they had hiked it that afternoon with no problem. But the dark changed everything. Their flashlights hit trunks, wet leaves, and fog low to the ground. Every sound felt close. Every branch looked like a person until the light touched it. They ran for maybe 5 minutes before Josh stopped. "Wait," he said. Noah turned. "What?" Josh pointed his flashlight at the tree. The blue trail marker was there, but underneath it someone had carved an arrow into the bark. Not painted. Carved. Fresh pale wood showed through the cut. The arrow pointed left. The trail went right. Riley whispered that wasn't there earlier. Noah looked down the right path. It was dark, narrow, and wet. Then he looked left. The carved arrow pointed toward another red cloth tied to a branch. Josh said no, we stay on blue. They went right. After 10 minutes they reached the creek again. That was impossible. The blue trail did not cross the creek twice. Noah checked the paper map with shaking hands. The map said the trail should have taken them uphill toward the parking lot. Instead, they were standing beside the same stretch of creek where they had found the red markers. Riley started crying quietly. Josh aimed his flashlight across the water. On the opposite bank, something hung from a tree. The backpack. Noah knew instantly it wasn't theirs. It was faded green, soaked through and hanging by one strap from a broken branch. Under it, nailed to the trunk, was a small wooden board. The words were written in black marker. "Find your way back." Josh said, "We are not crossing." Then a voice behind them said, "You already did." All three of them spun around. No one was there. Noah's flashlight shook across the trees. Then far back through the woods they saw a light. Small, white, moving between trunks. A flashlight. Then another appeared to the right. Then another. Riley whispered, "How many are there?" Noah grabbed her hand. "Move." They followed the creek downstream because water had to lead somewhere. That was what Noah kept telling himself. Water led to bridges, roads, civilization. But the creek twisted through the woods like it was trying to confuse them. Sometimes the bank disappeared and they had to step into freezing water up to their ankles. Sometimes fallen trees blocked the way. Sometimes they found more red cloth tied to branches, always just ahead, always guiding them. At some point, Josh said, "They're not chasing us." Noah looked back. The flashlight beams were still there, far enough not to catch them, close enough not to lose them. Josh's voice cracked. "They are hurting us." Riley stopped so suddenly Noah almost pulled her over. In front of them, sitting on a rock beside the creek, was a trail camera. Small, black, pointed directly at them. A red light blinked once, then went dark. Noah stepped closer. There was a strip of tape on the side of the camera. Written on it were 3 names: Noah, Riley, Josh. Riley backed away with both hands over her mouth. Josh grabbed the camera and ripped it off the tree. The moment he did, the whistle cut through the woods. Sharp, close. Another whistle answered from the other side of the creek. Then another farther behind them. Noah shouted, "Run." They ran until Riley slipped on a wet rock and hit the ground hard. Noah pulled her up, but she cried out. Her ankle. She could stand, but barely. Josh looked behind them. Flashlights were moving faster now. "Give me your bag," Josh said. Riley shook her head. "Give it to me." He took her pack and threw it into the creek. Noah stared at him. "What are you doing? If they're following our stuff, let them follow that." They helped Riley limp into a cluster of thick pines off the creek bank. They crouched behind a fallen tree while the pack floated away, bumping against rocks. A minute later, 2 people appeared along the creek. Adults. Both wearing dark rain jackets. Both barefoot. One held a flashlight. The other held a long branch like a walking stick. They moved quietly, scanning the ground. The first one stopped near the water and pointed downstream. "They split," he said. The second one laughed softly. "No, they hide." Riley squeezed Noah's hand until it hurt. The flashlight beam passed over the fallen tree, then stopped. Noah held his breath. A drop of water slid from his hair down his nose. He did not wipe it away. Then somewhere downstream, Riley's backpack hit a rock and made a soft splash. The people turned toward the sound. The man with the branch sat there. They moved on. Nobody breathed for almost 30 seconds. Josh whispered, "We need to get off the creek." Noah nodded. They climbed uphill through dense brush, moving slowly because of Riley's ankle. The hill rose steeply, and after several minutes they saw a break in the trees. A small clearing. At first Noah thought it was a service road. Then his flashlight hit canvas. Another tent. Same color as theirs. Same shape. Same orange rainfly. It sat in the middle of the clearing with the door open. Inside were their sleeping bags, their cooler, their lantern, their shoes, everything from their campsite. Riley whispered, "That's not possible." Josh stepped closer. Noah grabbed his sleeve. "Don't." But Josh was already staring into the tent. On the floor, spread neatly across one sleeping bag, were 3 driver's licenses. Noah's, Riley's, Josh's. They had been in their wallets, in their backpacks. At the original camp, beside the licenses was a folded piece of paper. Noah knew he should not touch it. He did anyway. It was a printed photo, taken earlier that evening. The 3 of them sitting around the fire laughing. The photo had been taken from the tree line behind their tent. On the back someone had written, "They came back to camp." Riley started sobbing. Josh looked around the clearing, stick raised in both hands. "Where are you?" The woods answered with a soft knock. 3 taps on wood. Then another set of taps came from the opposite side of the clearing. Then another. Noah realized the sounds were not random. People were knocking on trees, surrounding them. Josh whispered, "We run on 3." Noah shook his head. "They want us to run." The tent behind them rustled. All 3 of them turned. Something inside the tent shifted. A face appeared low in the opening. A man's face. Pale. Dirty. Smiling. He whispered, "You found the second camp." Josh swung the stick at him. The man ducked back inside the tent, laughing. Noah grabbed Riley and ran anyway. There was no plan now. No trail. No creek. No map. Just movement. They crashed through the trees while the knocks followed them on both sides. Riley was limping badly, and every few steps Noah had to pull her forward. Josh stayed behind them, turning every few seconds with the stick raised. Then the ground dropped beneath Noah's foot. He fell hard onto his side and slid down a slope covered in leaves. Riley fell beside him. Josh jumped after them. They landed in a ditch beside a narrow gravel road. A real road. For 1 second none of them understood what they were seeing. Then headlights appeared around a bend. Noah ran into the middle of the road, waving both arms. The vehicle slowed. It was a white Park Service truck. The driver rolled down the window. He was a man in a ranger uniform, maybe late 50s, with a grey beard and tired eyes. "What happened to you 3? He asked. Noah could barely speak. "People," he gasped, "in the woods. They took our stuff. They're following us." The ranger looked past them into the trees. His face tightened. "Get in." They climbed into the truck fast. Riley sat between Noah and Josh, shaking. The ranger locked the doors and started driving. Noah looked back through the rear window. At the edge of the trees, several flashlights stood still, watching the truck leave. The ranger said nothing for almost a full minute. Then he said, "Did you see red markers?" Josh looked at him. "Yes." The ranger cursed under his breath. "Those aren't trail markers." Noah asked what they were. The ranger gripped the wheel tighter. 8. At the ranger station, they called police. Search teams went into the woods before sunrise. They found the original campsite. The tent was empty. The zipper was closed. Inside, the fabric was warm. They found the second camp too, but everything from it was gone. The duplicate tent, the licenses, the photo, all of it. What they did find were trail cameras nailed high in the trees, some painted to match the bark. They had been recording hikers for weeks, maybe months. Police found files on one memory card. Noah, Riley, Josh, a missing fisherman, 2 college hikers, a family who had camped there last summer. One folder was labeled returners. Nova asked what that meant. Nobody answered. 2 days later, the ranger called him privately. He said search teams found something else near the creek. A shallow pit covered with branches. The side were backpacks, used wallets and printed photos of campsites. Most belonged to people reported lost in the park over the last 5 years. Noah asked if they found the people who did it. The ranger said no. Then he paused. There's something you should know. Noah waited. The ranger said the red markers had been removed every time they found them. But they always came back. Different trees. Different paths. Same cloth. Same knots. As if someone kept rebuilding the trail. Noah, Riley and Josh never camped again. Riley still has trouble walking when it rains. Josh still wakes up when he hears tapping on wood. Noah still dreams about the tent zipper moving one tooth at a time. But the part that bothers him most is not the face in the tent. It is the warmth. Because that meant someone had been inside. Lying there. Listening to them return. Waiting until they noticed the zipper was closed. So if you came back to your campsite and your tent was zipped shut from the inside, would you call out or run before it opened?